Hello, Professor Kent Lee here. Welcome back to my videos. Today I would like to talk about writing strategies. Now, in previous videos I've talked about the writing process, and I would like to go into more detail in terms of the sort of psychological or cognitive or mental strategies that you're using. Cognitive having to do with thinking and understanding and comprehension. So the cognitive strategies involved. And I'm following a classification by a couple of researchers in an article in the reference here, which you can look at. And they have a survey that students can take. It's a little complicated and hard to calculate, but I'll just talk about the main kind of concepts in this classification of writing strategies from these researchers. So they break up writing strategies into elaborative, voice or approach, self-efficacy, a focus on reflection and revision in writing, versus a spontaneous or impulsive approach to writing, and then what we call a procedural approach, that is just going through the procedures or going through the motions, just doing the things you need to do to get a good grade or a decent grade. So we can kind of break these up into those that are associated with deeper learning, the elaborative approach, and the reflective revision approach. These focus more on strategies where you're actually trying to understand something better. You're trying to learn. You're trying to understand the concepts. Say the professor tells you to write about a topic like this. Well, you're actually trying to understand the topic, the concepts, not just bang out a paper for a decent grade. So the deeper learning strategies, or in terms of writing, deeper writing strategies, these indicate more of a focus on, for example, planning, what some people call metacognitive strategies. You're thinking about your learning, you plan out your learning, how you're going to do something, how you're going to learn something, how you're going to do a writing assignment. And along the way, you're also thinking, is this working out well? Do I need to do things differently? Do I need to, learn some more, find some more information about this? Even when you're not sitting in front of the computer trying to write throughout the day, you're thinking about not only the assignment, but the topic, and trying to understand things better, and trying to think about, am I doing this successfully? Do I need to do more revising? Do I need to maybe fill in some gaps in the logic in my paper? So there's kind of a focus on the global contents and the concepts in the organization of your paper. You're also focused on trying to engage with the audience. You're thinking about the reader, and not just your professor, but any potential reader, communicating to the audience. And you view yourself as kind of an active agent. I'm not just repeating some ideas, but this is the main point, the main thesis, or main purpose of my paper is kind of my own opinion. You view yourself as an independent, active learner, and I can identify, this is my opinion about the assigned topic. If the topic is improving English education at universities in your country, this is kind of my view that I'm developing, even though I write it in third person. I have a clear idea. This is what I think should be done. Or this is how I feel about the assigned topic of, say, British romantic poets, or the interpretation of a particular American novelist. This is kind of like my view, my opinion, my analysis, my proposal, my solution on the topic. So it's driven by like a clear main point throughout the essay, and you're focusing on the global development of ideas throughout the essay, and not just doing what the professor requires, expects, but going beyond sometimes the basic requirements of the assignment. You feel like you're independent. You're not just focused on what the professor wants, but your ideas, your essay, your main points. And you feel maybe get more of a sense of satisfaction from doing the assignment. So the elaborative approach is characterized by for example, a focus on planning it or visualizing the different main ideas of your essay and how you're going to go about writing the essay, the different stages of your writing process. So there's more of a focus on planning. So for example, you think about the essay when you're not writing. Sometimes you might get some ideas for your essay while you're not sitting in front of the computer. You're trying to organize things in your mind, not just at the computer. And you are thinking about planning or visualizing about what you need to do for the paper. There's a focus on your voice or your self-expression that is expressing your main point, developing and expressing your main point, your sense of your own voice or your idea in the paper. So for example, you think about how you come across in the writing. You're trying to write something original and unique. You're trying to inform the audience or persuade the audience. You're thinking about that, maybe even kind of impressing them or such. Your sense of voice. You're considering the audience, not just your professor, but any potential reader, and communicating clearly to them. You're thinking about what you need to do in order to convince them, to persuade them, or to inform them. Giving the readers maybe a hint of what you're going to talk about, especially in the introduction. And doing what you need to explain things. Could be detailed descriptions, a lot of details, analogies, metaphors, contrasting and comparing ideas, definitions, examples, depending on the assignment or the topic. Doing what you need in order to communicate clearly to the reader in your paper. So there's a focus on communicating with the audience and expressing your ideas. The other successful approach in writing is the reflective revision approach, where there's a focus again on planning, drafting, revising, reshaping. So planning throughout the process of writing and especially revision. And in the process of revising your paper, again, clearly communicating with the audience. So again, there is a focus on planning in terms of, for example, when you're working on the main idea or the topic that's been assigned, you're focusing on expressing and developing your viewpoint. If it's maybe an issue that has different sides, you know what your viewpoint is as you write the paper. And you're focusing on careful revision, not just minor details, but the overall contents and flow and logic of your paper. Finding and restating and revising how you express your ideas. You don't just do a first draft and then turn it in, but it's a process. You take it as a process, a detailed multi-stage process, focusing again on the important ideas and contents of your paper. Developing your sense of voice. As you're revising, as you're developing your paper, you want to like what you've written. You don't think that there's just one way to do the assignment, but you're expressing your own voice and opinion. Now, the less successful approaches, the more superficial learning approaches or surface writing approaches, rather than feeling like, oh, this is really my baby, this is my idea, you're more focused on repeating ideas or information, maybe that are already out there, maybe from cited sources that you're citing, or that's just kind of general knowledge. You're focused on the local level, like grammar and spelling and vocabulary and such. You feel kind of detached, like this isn't really my thing, my baby, but I've just got to do this paper and turn it in. So you're just ordering and arranging data and ideas that are not necessarily your own original ideas. There's less of a concern for the audience, and you're just organizing things in order to, think, oh, I can impress the paper with it by dumping a lot of facts and data in here. There is a focus on editing in terms of minor details rather than global details. You're kind of focused on the rules or teacher expectations. This is just what I need to do to get a decent grade or to finish the paper. So one aspect is a sense of low self-efficacy. You don't feel like you can really successfully do this, at least not an really original creative essay. So for example, it's like, oh, this is just a long, slow, difficult process, and this is so boring and difficult. When you do revise, you're focusing more on revising little things: grammar, punctuation, spelling, vocabulary. You're afraid of, how of the grade that you're going to get, what the professor will think. Maybe you need encouragement. You really don't express your own ideas, but again, you're just repeating and rearranging ideas of others. And maybe you need help. You're overly dependent on help from others in terms of ideas for your paper or encouragement from others. You don't feel like you're good at writing major papers, and maybe your writing is kind of impromptu, like you do it at the last minute. Oh, it's due tomorrow, I better get started on it. So what we call impromptu, like this kind of rushed at the last minute, very sudden writing, impromptu. And that kind of overlaps with the third general approach, the third aspect of superficial learning, kind of procedural focus. You observe the rules, you go through the procedures or the motions, you follow what you think are the required procedures. I do X, Y, and Z in order to produce a paper. Just the mechanical procedures to get something done. And maybe just surface level organization of the paper rather than a deeper conceptual level and development of ideas. So, for example, you are sticking to the rules, you're focusing on what you think are the rules of writing or rules of the assignment, and what the essay calls for, but not really going beyond that in terms of developing your own ideas. You're thinking only of your professor and what the professor will think or the professor's expectations, rather than under the conceptual development or understanding the concepts, conceptual knowledge of the topic. You're just trying to answer the question or do the minimal requirements to get a decent or passable grade. You view an essay as just arranging or rearranging ideas and information, repeating and repackaging ideas and information that you find online. And yeah, I cited sources, yeah, but you don't really go beyond that in terms of using sources critically or analytically in order to develop your own original ideas. And you worry about the time it'll take. So these are characteristics of superficial writing. And if this is your approach, again, this indicates low self-efficacy, focusing on minor requirements and details, lack of successful planning, and especially with a spontaneous, impulsive style, a lack of a suitable formal academic style. It might not be bad to write your first draft in a very informal style, but then you need to revise it to a really, really formal academic style in the revision process, so the final product is well crafted and expresses your ideas very clearly and concisely in an academic manner to an academic audience. So if the latter, the superficial learning approaches, describe your writing process, again, you probably need to reflect on your writing process, your learning strategies, maybe your motivation in general. Do you feel, when it comes to the language or the course, the topic of the course or the topic of the writing assignments, do you feel like you have no interest in the topic? And that's natural, that's understandable. And you may not be successful in all your classes. You may not have strong motivation in all your classes. That's okay. But if this is something that's of concern to you, if it's an important class, like a class in your major, maybe you need to reflect on your motivation. Am I really motivated towards this topic, towards my major? Do I feel like I'm doing this because I want to? Do I feel like I'm improving? Or am I doing what I have to do in order to pass the class? Do you feel like this is extrinsic or external motivation? I don't want to do this. I'd have to do this to avoid punishment, to get some reward. What's your motivation and why is that? So it may help to maybe join a study group, study with friends who have their stuff together, who have their thing together, who have good study habits and good learning strategies. I remember when I was in college, I was generally a very good student, but sometimes I pushed myself too hard and I burned out really bad one time. Well, I studied with friends at the library, friends who were self-disciplined and good at studying, and I kind of got my sense of study ability back from that. And that might help you as long as you're not overly dependent on other people for help. That might help you. So study with people, learn from people who have good study habits, hang around with people who are successful in the course in their school, learn from them, hire a tutor. Try to engage in self-learning. Do some learning on the topic, the course topic, by reading things or watching video lectures on the topic that you don't really have to do. Stuff that you can do extra work besides what's required in the course, maybe to kind of start to fuel your own sense of understanding. And maybe go, oh, I'm starting to understand now. Maybe by reading some extra reading assignments or some extra materials or watching some extra video lectures on the topic, maybe you'll start to understand it better and feel a little more confident about yourself, or at least learn more about the topic so that you are able to come up with a better idea for your written assignments or for your class assignments. Again, take care of yourself. Don't just spend all your time in the library, but study hard, but also take breaks and do what you need to do, like alone activities, downtime, rest, study breaks, whatever you do need to do in order to take care of yourself. Talk to people. Most of all, reflect on yourself and think about maybe why are you like this. If you have some difficulties, maybe you're not really a perfect student, you're not really bad, but you're kind of in the middle, or you have a lot of difficulties, you have some difficulties. Reflect on yourself. What made you this way? Again, was it too much pressure, too much study pressure, exam pressure in your past? Bad learning experiences, bad teachers, bad school experiences, or it's just not your thing. You can't be interested in every subject in school, and that's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself, but reflect on yourself and what are your goals? Do you really need to get an A in this class? Is it important to you? Is a B okay? Whatever. You don't have to get A's in everything. All right, I'm rambling. That's enough for now. In another video, I'm going to talk more about the problems of writing in a second language, and then we're going to go more into the meat of writing. So that's it for now. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.